about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. So you're going to see this disease or this illness called Mysterious Illness X. We were notified a little while back that in the Democratic Republic of Congo, there is a pretty aggressive, fast, and fatal illness that has already killed about 53 people. According to the University of Minnesota, they don't think it's Ebola. They don't think it's Marburg virus, but it's similar to that, looking like a hemorrhagic sort of fever where they get sick and then they start to bleed internally. And according to the University of Minnesota, there are 2 clusters of this in the Equateur province of the Democratic Republic of Congo. They've ruled out Ebola and Marburg, and they are still continuing to test. The newest cluster is centered in Bromade Vilega in Kutsu Health Zone and was reported in February 9th, whereas the earlier initial report was January 21 in Boloko Village. And so I just want to kind of give you guys an update on what's going on here because the World Health Organization is very concerned. As we saw with Ebola a few years back, something like this can very easily spread when it kills the victims that quickly. It doesn't give us a lot of time to study it. It doesn't give us a lot of time to warn people. It doesn't give us a lot of time to do preventative measures or treatment. And if it is a virus, it's difficult to treat. But it could also very easily spread. And so we're trying to get as much data as possible, but this is the latest that we have. So the World Health Organization says the time between symptom onset and death is 48 hours. All right, that's fast. The World Health Organization describes the outbreak as a significant public health threat. They believe it started, as I said earlier, January 21st, 419 cases total, according to Daily Mail. 53 people have died. Now, they believe this might have started in Boloko when 3 children reportedly ate a dead bat. This started in children. They died 48 hours after developing symptoms of hemorrhagic fever. So fever, bleeding, headache, joint pain, and other symptoms. Now, this then brings a lot of questions going, well, are all the other 419 cases also in those who ate bats? Or do you eat the bat and then you give it to others? And then why did kids feel the need to eat a dead bat? What's going on in terms of hunger and in terms of lack of resources there? But getting a disease from an animal doesn't necessarily mean you should be able to spread it person to person. This is what we're watching really, really closely with the avian flu and what's happening with our poultry and cattle. But we have seen these viruses cross species like we are seeing with avian flu. But it's a very distinct sort of genetic mutation that has to happen to make something go from human to human. So this is just happening a little too quick for investigators to be able to figure out. And I don't like things that happen too quick. Okay. I need it slow and steady. You know, I know I talk fast and I know I may make decisions pretty quickly, but when it comes to this, I need everything to pump the brakes. So they say that the number of outbreaks from diseases jumping from animals to humans have surged more than 60% as a whole. This outbreak of the mystery disease, they're calling, began in the town of Bomate, they say on February 9th, although we had our first reported cases January 21st. Officials sent samples from 13 cases for testing. All have been negative for Ebola and other hemorrhagic diseases like Marburg. But get this, some of the samples are positive for malaria. Now, they're saying that this virus has a fatality rate of 12.3%. Mind you, 419 cases, 53 dead. These 3 kids who ate a dead bat allegedly died within 48 hours. But they're saying not everybody who gets this dies, but a 12.3% fatality rate is very high. Health officials say the remote location of the outbreaks combined with the country's, quote, weak healthcare infrastructure increase the risk of further spread, requiring immediate high-level intervention to contain the outbreak. So this disease X, which is what they're calling it right now, does not have a name. Right now, like I said, they don't know if it's related to malaria. They don't know if it's related to Ebola. But if at all you're not feeling well, I know this sounds like it happens in another country, et cetera, but look at what's going on now with measles and other things. I really do believe our immune systems are down severely, whether it was because of COVID, whether it was because of the isolation, the lockdown, whether it's because of the COVID vaccine, which has been postulated, whether it's because we are eating like crap. Is it because we are not really priming our immune systems and, getting out there and rolling in the mud, which I would not recommend, but that's a theory that we don't play like we used to, rather than getting dirty and making mud pies and climbing trees and accidentally eating bugs when we're riding on our big wheel. Many kids now don't get that sort of challenge to their immune system because they're sitting in front of a TV or they're sitting in front of a computer playing a video game in their home. And so our immune system on the whole, again, obesity, prediabetes, all sorts of things, lack of nutrition, eating a bunch of junk food, is, I think, making us a lot more susceptible. And we need to be aware that we might have the best doctors and nurses and staff and vaccines and medications in the world. We're still very vulnerable. And when something doesn't seem right, please get it checked out. There was a mom who called me saying her child won't walk. She keeps falling down. And I asked, when did this start? Have they seen a doctor? This has been going on for days, and she hasn't taken her child into a doctor yet. I think we're starting to get very spoiled and lax, going, well, I could just call somebody online. I said, get her the hell to an ER immediately. So, if anything doesn't seem right, please get it checked out. And let's work on getting ourselves some better immunity and better health. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. And if you ever miss any of our shows, go to drdaliah.com. So there is a big push, especially with MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, to have kids start school later so they get more sleep. So to sleep or not to sleep, that is the question. And you would think on the whole, that's a fantastic idea. But I see both sides of this. And I think this is something we really need to have a good conversation about. So the problem we're having is teenagers do not get enough sleep. The next day, they have to go to school, and they're tired. They're hitting the Zen pouches, they're vaping, they're hitting the caffeinated drinks in order to wake themselves up and be awake during school. By the time second, third period roll around, they might now be paying attention and more lucid and awake. Then they finish their school in the afternoon. I don't know what they do in the afternoon because a lot of kids don't have after-school jobs anymore. Then they play games, watch Netflix, do whatever they're doing, and they go to bed late just to wake up the next morning and that cycle happen. And so there's this big push for kids to start school later so they get an extra hour or two in the morning of sleep. Now, most teenagers need about 8 to 10 hours of sleep. I always recommend about 9 hours to everybody asleep. Most kids don't get that. And the argument for having this happen is your average teenager in the animal kingdom is pubertal and roaming, and the nighttime. I remember when I was a teenager, I was very energetic at night. Nighttime is when the cats go out to play, and it's just, in animals, that's when all the fun happens. All right, sun goes down, and that's when you're supposed to meet your mate in the jungle and whatever. As humans, we are not necessarily supposed to be already having kids when we're 13, 14, 15. It is urged that we stay in school, okay? Go to bed at a bedtime, wake up, go to school. But animalistically, we want to roam. We want to party. We want to be social. We want to interact with others. And for those of you going, yeah, my teen just plays video games at night, or he'll talk to, but are they talking online? Or they're more interactive at night. Even if it's playing a video game, they'll be on Discord or whatever. So it is not that uncommon to see the nighttime energy surge that these kids have. The issue I have with schools is these kids aren't, the way we're doing the school days are wrong. Kids are sitting for 50 minutes in a class for 6 periods or 8 periods. I think that's ridiculous. I think classes should be concrete, no more than 20 to 30 minutes of the core stuff they need. You could get all their studies done in the morning before noon. Then they could do lunch either on campus or off campus so they don't get bullied. And then the afternoon is all the practical learning, the really cool stuff. So that by the time these kids get through all 12 years of school, actually, we could knock it down to 10 years where they graduate high school by sophomore year, they will have been exposed to farming, exposed to mechanical engineering, exposed to plumbing, exposed to medicine, exposed to law, exposed to teaching. So that by the time they're a sophomore, they graduate high school, and then junior and senior year is their associate's degree or their trade training and certification. So by the time every child is 18 years old, they have a degree or they have a training in a trade and are ready to go out into the real world. And they could do extended training for medical school, law school, etc. But there's your free college, and we're making these kids a little bit more ready for real life. You have got to get rid of a 3-month summer vacation. This 3-month summer vacation is stupid. I understand teachers need it to recoup. I get that. But you're having children not learn for 3 months of every year. All right? That is, 4 total years of non-learning. within their 12-year cycle. That's a waste. You know, we're worried about proficiency. We're worried about them, being tired. If they're up all night during the long summer nights, and then you're asking them in end of August or September to wake up early, it's not going to work. So we really need to redo school as a whole. But here's the issue of letting kids sleep in. As much as a doctor, I agree they need sleep, and their day cycle is shifted because the nighttime is when they roam in the animal kingdom and mate and etc. And so as much as I understand how kids need to sleep, that's not real life. I had to wake up at 3:45 to get to the hospital to do my shift at the hospital. All right. Other individuals have to be at work by 8 a.m. If you run a farm, you're up at the crack of dawn when the rooster goes cock-a-doodle-doo. So we're supposed to be waking up when the sun wakes us up. And we're supposed to be starting to go to bed a couple hours after sundown. And we're supposed to be using the outside light and moonlight to kick in our melatonin or to calm or to wake us up for our whole circadian rhythm and sleep-wake cycle. And so saying, you know what, let's let kids start school at 9, 10 a.m. How are we preparing them for real life? Now, I understand a lot of people are working from home, and that's when they wake up. But most jobs out there, like most nursing shifts, it's 6 to 6 or 7 to 7. You can't sleep in when you're a grown-up. And so if we're going to, at the student level, train them, you know what? You're a teenager. You need your sleep. You need your beauty rest. Sleep in. We'll work around you. That's not how it works. How many of you have ever had a baby? Do you get to sleep in? No. When that baby needs you up, you need to be up. And I get it. We're sleep deprived. That's a problem. But maybe we need to go to bed before midnight or 2 a.m. Maybe we should be going to bed at 9, 10 o'clock. And I know, everybody's like, okay, boomer. I'm not a boomer. I'm a Gen X. But, I really worry that we're going to change things to the point that then everybody's like, no, your day doesn't start till 10 a.m. That's not practical. The sun has been up for 4 hours. Now, mind you, I slept until noon on the weekend. I loved sleeping in. Sleeping in is fantastic until I moved out of the house and then I had jobs. I had to be at my job at 7 a.m. or at 6:30 a.m. You got to get up at the crack of dawn to work. So how do we, if we're going to do this with kids in school, you need to explain to me, how do you then transition them to real life? Because one of the issues we're having right now is people don't want to get out of bed. And what are they doing at night? See, in the animal kingdom, there's an incentive. Well, they're partying, they're mating, they're procreating. But if that's not what American society wants for humans, we don't want them procreating when they're 14, 15, 16. What is it that you want them to do at night on a school night? Do you want them to study? Do you want them to go to bed so that they are productive in the morning? So we're losing productivity with our kids. We're losing months every year of them getting solid learning. And before everybody freaks out about lowering summer vacation, you could do it slowly. Let's expand winter break for a few weeks. It's ridiculous that kids have to go back after 2 weeks with all the cough, cold, flu, airplane, weights, and kids aren't coming back to school in January anyway because they're sick. So maybe let's expand winter break but shorten summer break. But we need to get these kids ready for real life. And ready for real life is waking up when the rooster says cock-a-doodle-doo to go and milk the cows. Real life is getting up when the baby cries. Real life is getting your butt dressed, showered, and at your job. And life does not start at 10 a.m. So I'm mixed. And I know I'm a physician and I've been advocating for kids getting more sleep. But if kids are going to be up at midnight, 2 a.m. doing video games, no, I think this is going to do more harm than good in the long run. But if kids are studying and they're, and they put their books down at 11, and it's too much for them to get up at 6 the next day because we really do want them to get 9 hours of sleep, then I support it. But this is something that I hope RFK Jr., hears, where we do need to increase our sleep. We do need to increase our health. Sleep helps our immunity, but we got to do something about kids being out of school for 3 months of the year, not learning. If they were doing practical learning, maybe. But if they're just sitting and playing video games, get them. I mean, you're losing such valuable time where you could teach them. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
On the Dr. Daliah Show, thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Daliah and on Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show. Twitter, I understand, is X. Okay, so a lot of drama for those of you who are federal workers, and God bless you guys. Those of you who are hard workers that are going into the office and doing. My hair's a mess. Sorry about that. I wish someone. Sorry, I didn't know you guys had to look at this every time you see me on the radio. For those of you that watch the show on Facebook, for those of you federal workers that are hard workers that decided to not take the deal because you did want to work on site and you did want to continue to work for the government and work in civil service, especially we're talking about the civilian workforce, God bless you for doing it. But it has been extremely chaotic. So on Friday, we learned that Elon Musk had suggested, and the OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, had mandated that everybody give 5 bullet points on what they are doing. What have they been doing in the last week with their job? Something that is not unheard of because we see this in the private sector all the time. This is not anything that is earth-shattering. It might be new from a government standpoint where jobs used to be more secure, but in terms of in terms of the private industry, that happens where my manager is on my butt. You need to show me what you're working on so I could show them that you guys are doing work. It happens. And that happens when stuff isn't getting done. And they want to know, what employees are working, what exactly they're working on. Are they working on duties that might not need attention, whereas other duties do need attention? And that question usually comes up when the job's not getting done. If the job is getting done and the customers are happy and the clients are happy or the students are happy or the military is happy, when everybody is getting what they need, the question doesn't come up. But when there's this isn't being done, then what are you working on? So that wasn't a big shock. Not a big shock. What was the shock was the threat of being fired if you don't respond to an email that didn't even really look legit. The email did not look like a government. It looked a little out of character for what a federal government email would look like, because we all saw the pictures online. And people at first were like, is this coming from China? I mean, why are we over the email, a non-secured email? I understand the government has a level of security, but why are we telling an office who won't have time to read 3 million emails all the stuff we're doing? Isn't this something we send to our manager? Now, the email had said you CC your manager and all that, but where are all these emails going? Who's reading them? Is somebody really going to read them? And who can hack in and get access to this? Now, they had said in this email, do not give any classified information. But if you're basically saying, well, I am working on something that's not classified, somebody could put, 2 and 2 together, going, oh, wait a second. If you're working on that, then that might be an operation. Like, imagine if ICE workers or customs, the health and the Department of Homeland Security, their employees are like, well, what I did last week is I looked at map areas of the San Antonio area. I did plottings of certain buildings. And okay, well, then somebody's going to figure out, well, there might be a raid there. Yeah, and so there were some concerns. So Kash Patel with the FBI said, no. I believe the State Department said, do not answer this email back. The Pentagon said, don't answer this email back. The problem is all weekend long, even until yesterday, there was the threat that if you don't answer back, you're fired. So employees were, well, wait, I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. And the people who really love their job, that want to work at their job, I have been kind of going through hell right now. It's been very crazy. Elon Musk's tactic is, as I said, something that's not new. We've seen this in private industry, and his justification for it was there are people that are possibly getting paid, like he just saw with the contracts, that aren't doing work. There could be people that are dead that are still getting paychecks. We want to know who is still actively working. And so you would think going through the FBI or the State Department or the Pentagon that they could handle it themselves. But if you remember, the Pentagon failed an audit. There's been a lot of issues with waste, fraud, and abuse. So, OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, sent this out. It has been walked back from what we understand. All right. For those individuals who didn't know who to follow, do you follow Kash Patel, who's running the FBI? Do you follow Pete Hegseth, who's running the Pentagon? Or do you follow the Office of Personnel Management, who could fire you? And remember, people started getting laid off by no name behind it, an email, or they just got locked out of their. So people are scared. So Elon Musk has said, according to Forbes, that people will get a second chance to respond if Trump says so. So even though Elon Musk threatened that these federal workers would be fired, you can't, if you can't fire all of the FBI. You can't fire the whole Defense Department, especially if the Defense Department and the FBI, the State Department and other departments said, no, do not respond to this email. So he said that workers who did not reply will get another chance to do so at President Donald Trump's discretion. Now, this is something that has been talked about. I think Tulsi Gabbard also had told employees not to respond to this email. And so one thing that I think a lot of us were thinking is, okay, if there's some discord between Elon Musk, the Office of Personnel Management, and then all these other state departments, we need the government to run smoothly, but we don't want waste, fraud, and abuse. So who is going to be the judge? Who is going to break the tie? Trump, we need some leadership on this right now. I understand Trump's been very busy. He's been getting a lot done. I get that. But you have federal workers who are now freaking out that they don't have a job. And by the way, the productivity, how can the productivity be to the degree you need it if everybody's running around going, am I getting fired? What do I put for my 5 bullets? What if this is class? It's been not very productive. I think it's been very unproductive, even though I understand all the reasoning behind it, not very productive. And I get Trump, Elon Musk, Doge. They want to fix a lot of the waste, fraud, and abuse. They have found so much that they are assuming there is tons of contamination. Look, I've worked in a lab. When you see a Petri dish contaminated, it's not just about that one Petri dish. Okay, now if that petri dish got contaminated, you have to assume there's a lot more contamination, because whatever happened to that petri dish might not have been just an exclusive single one-off event. And now you start to distrust everything that was done in this lab. And so was it the person? Was it human error? Was it the filtration system? Was it a technique that wasn't done right? Was it a bad petri dish? So you have to investigate all this, and you got to investigate it pretty quickly. And also, this should have been done in the Biden administration, should have been done in the previous Trump administration. This should have been done in the Obama administration. This should have always been done, and it wasn't. So now we have this massive cleanup effort, and it seems like a lot, and I get that. So for those of you who are federal workers, it looks like you get another day at your job. And Musk said, subject to the discretion of the president, federal workers who did not respond to the check-in email will get another chance to respond. Failure to do so would result in being fired. Now, the Trump administration informed federal employees as of yesterday that it was voluntary for employees to respond, and they will not be fired if they don't respond. This according to the New York Times and Politico. But the reason why this is such an issue is we need to look like we don't have chaos right now. We need to look like we are calm, cool, collected, and we are making smart moves. This whole federal worker thing was a cluster and a seventh. So I hope they get their act together. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. Totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
We are back on Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So we do have an update on the Pope. Over the weekend, we were told he was still in critical condition after being admitted to the hospital for a respiratory illness, then being told he had double pneumonia, and then blood tests showing that he was in early kidney failure. However, we were told that he was able to be alert, responsive, and attended mass. I'm not sure if that was attended mass in the hospital or remotely. He is 88 years old, is battling pneumonia and a, quote, complex lung infection, which could mean a variety of things, but it is requiring him to be on high flows of oxygen. We're told, thank God, he hasn't had any more respiratory crises since Saturday night, and that the renal failure is mild, early, and is under control. Now, I know many of you have had questions. How does pneumonia then go into renal failure? Well, there's a variety of things that could happen. If your lungs, so pneumonia basically is an infection of the lung. You could have viral pneumonia, you could have bacterial pneumonia, you could have fungal pneumonia. And pneumo is lung. And so when you see pneumo, that's, pneumonitis, inflammation of the lung. The lobes of the lung, how God created us and how nature created us, whatever you believe, amazing. You just don't have necessarily two lungs. You have multiple lobes in the lung. And so if you do have inflammation or an infection, the inflammatory juices and fluids go and try to wall off and fight the infection. Well, that in and of itself could cause lack of airflow. The job of the lungs is to take the air, extract the oxygen from it, and bring it into close contact with your blood vessels, such that your blood can exchange the carbon dioxide for the oxygen and then bring oxygen to the other tissues and the other organs. So when the right ventricle of your heart, so basically blood, comes back from the body through the right atrium to the right ventricle, it gets ejected and pumped into the lungs. The lungs will oxygenate it. It'll come back through the left atrium down to the left ventricle, and then the left ventricle pumps that blood out to the body. And as the pressure emits and pushes the blood throughout the body, tissues know what to do. They know how to accept the oxygen from the blood. And then the byproduct will come out as carbon dioxide. That will then return through veins. The veins will then coalesce through the inferior vena cava, go up, enter the right atrium of the heart, then down to the right ventricle, and then the right ventricle pumps that into, during the pump of the left ventricle, at the same time, that'll pump the blood to the lungs to oxygenate. So if one of the lobes of your lungs is not actively oxygenating, then there's less oxygen going through your body. That's why we do these pulse oximeters to check your oxygen. If your finger is not getting adequate blood oxygen, and we look at your saturation, we love it above 97%. But if it's below that, then we know that there's something going on, that something is impeding your ability to get oxygen. Now, it could also be your finger is cold. It could be your blood vessels are constricted, and maybe we need to do a better way to figure out oxygenation status, and that we might have to do a radial artery tap to get your blood oxygen level. But usually we could just do the little sensor that we could put on your finger or toe, etc., like a toe for an infant, and be able to read your oxygen status. But if your lips are turning blue, if you're tired, fatigued, you're breathing heavy, your heart rate is increasing, we suspect that you're having some sort of hypoxemia or low oxygen, or some sort of respiratory distress or cardiac distress. So how will then pneumonia affect the kidneys? Well, if the kidneys are not getting the blood flow that it needs, and the kidneys are not getting the oxygen it needs, then the kidneys are not going to work as well. Another issue that can happen is if somebody has pneumonia, an infection in the lungs, that infection could get into the bloodstream, and that could then turn into sepsis. Sepsis now will be a highway or an autobahn for this bacteria, if it is a bacterial pneumonia, which we're assuming it is, to then get to all the other organs. And then you could possibly cause even more lack of blood flow, organ failure, and sepsis can be fatal. if not immediately treated. So the Pope is 88 years old. He's from what I understand, despite all of this, doing pretty well. He had part of his lung removed back in the 50s. So he's had an issue of respiratory infections, lost one of his lobes, non-smoker. But he was hospitalized for pneumonia back in 2023. He also had to undergo abdominal surgery where part of his colon was removed, according to Fox News. And then he was hospitalized on Valentine's Day with the respiratory infection. Now he is at Gemelli Hospital, one of the best hospitals in Italy. I know many people are asking, how is socialized medicine over there? My guess is the Pope is getting anything he needs. And I'm sure he got to the front of the line. And the Pope's condition is a bilateral pneumonia. The bilateral meaning he's got pneumonia on both sides of his lungs. So we are hoping that he can overcome. He's being treated with broad spectrum antibiotics. We are being told he has not gone into sepsis. Hallelujah. But pneumonia is one of the most common causes of bacterial sepsis in the elderly. UTIs can cause urosepsis. Remember Bill Clinton, former President Bill Clinton was hospitalized because he had urosepsis. He had a UTI, he had a kidney infection or a urinary tract infection that went into the bloodstream. So you can survive if it's caught early. At this point, the Pope will be continued on antibiotics. He will be given respiratory support through oxygen. They might also be giving him breathing treatments to help open up his lungs. But right now, it's watching his organs, making sure he doesn't have organ failure. The fact that he's alert, the fact that he's attended Mass means he's not hooked up to a ventilator, not in induced coma, alert. He's responding, which is a very, very good sign. So I pray, I hope to God that he does not decompensate and that he can get through this without needing to be ventilated and survive. But they said he did have an asthmatic episode. An asthmatic episode, when somebody has asthma, I don't know if he actually has the diagnosis of asthma. There's a more generalized term called reactive airway disease. It's where the airways start to constrict. And we need to open them up. And we use albuterol, which is a bronchodilator. It's an alpha agonist that'll help open up the airways so that he can breathe. A lot of people kind of confuse the lung mechanisms and the blood and the vessel mechanisms with epinephrine and adrenaline and albuterol. So when you're in that flight or that fright or flight response and you need to run, you need to move, you need your heart to be pumping, you also need your lungs to the lungs to dilate. You need bronchodilation. And so these medications will help open up some of the airways to allow oxygen to come in. And so that's that. So keep your questions coming. I'm here to answer them. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.